Welcome everyone to the very first free lesson of the Improving Your Videos course. I am your teacher, Sheldon, and before we get started, if you have not yet registered for the full course, spots are limited, so I do recommend that you do that right now. We are going to be covering practical tips, hardware and software settings, and just general best practices for both live and pre-recorded videos, which are going to take place in 3 approximately 1 hour long videos over the course of 1 week. No matter who you are, what equipment you have, what expertise you have, I am certain that we can almost immediately start giving you dramatic improvements in your video content. So please give this a try, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to demonstrate that right now with just how quickly and easily you're going to be able to improve. In addition to these live courses, you will of course have some Q&A with me during the live interaction. You'll have unlimited access to replays of these videos. You will get a course book. You will get checklists, which you can keep right next to you while you're setting up your recording to make sure you've done everything you need in order to basically get the most out of your videos. You're going to have access to a private Facebook group, which is exclusive to registered users so that you can learn from and with one another. And as we all discover new things and as new features are rolled out on each of the platforms, we'll all be able to share that knowledge with one another. And I have partnered with my friends at Sweetwater Sound. In particular, I've reached out to my personal sales rep. Now, the reason that's great is for several reasons. Number one is it means that he's going to patiently answer your questions, and he knows what this course is teaching. He's going to help guide you to the right equipment upgrades that are specific to your needs. He's going to give you my personal discounts. And best of all, if you buy any hardware, he's going to help you if you need any help setting it up and installing it once the hardware or equipment arrives to you. So this lesson, we're going to go over some basic principles and settings. Exclusively for registrants, I recommend you download the accompanying ebook that goes along with this course, and basically will tell you everything you need in order to make these improvements. It's basically a book version of these videos. You can, of course, replay, you can stop and rewind these replays to your heart's content, but in case you want to try and adjust your settings along with me, what I recommend is that you actually gather all of your devices in front of you. I've got my phone right here, I've got a second monitor right here, and this monitor here. And what I have essentially is you could set it up so that you have this video on one side, and then you can have your other web browser or Zoom application, for example, on the right side. And then you can follow along and change these settings right along with me. Now, I use Apple devices, so you are going to see Mac operating system when I share my computer screen. You're going to see an iPhone screen when I'm sharing them. But the vast majority of what we're going to be learning here, they look exactly the same on either an Android or Apple device or a PC. So no need to worry about that. Now, again, it seems to me that almost everyone is using Zoom and almost everyone is also using Facebook. So I am going to focus on those two platforms, but most of the things that we're talking about here are easily transferable concepts. So I'm really using those as examples, and you'll be able to change your settings along with me on those specific platforms. But it is not going to be limited to those things. It does mean, however, that you need to make sure that you have a Facebook account, and it also means that you should have a Zoom account, and then you should download those apps onto whatever devices you're using. I would recommend getting them on both your mobile device, your phone or your iPad, and or putting them on your computer as well so that you can be ready, because you never know. I sometimes use my phone, I sometimes use my computer. I find them both useful. So if you need a moment, you can either pause the video or you can go ahead. I'm just, while you're getting those accounts ready and opening those applications, I want to just congratulate you for being here, because as I have been saying, the coronavirus has actually really only highlighted what's been true for a long time, which is that digital content is just super, super important. It was very important before the pandemic began, and now it's just become that much more apparent, and it's going to continue to be long after this. Number one, because this pandemic is going to be here for a long time, and number two, if you think about it, anyone really my age or younger, their first impression of you, for example, is going to be through digital content. They're going to look you up online. So digital content, your digital footprint is really, really important. And it's really powerful, actually. There's some wonderful and amazing things that you can only do digitally that you actually can't do in person. So I really want to congratulate you. Okay, before we dive in, last, intro section. During the live instructions in particular, if you have questions, I want you to go ahead and post them in the comments section. Now, if you're watching them directly on my website, you may not be able to see or make those comments. So what I recommend is you take your mouse and you hover over the lower right-hand corner of the video, and one of those options, it should say YouTube, or it should be some sort of icon that directs you to watch in YouTube. Now, you'll need to have an account to actually go ahead and comment, but that's the place to do it. So go ahead and make your way over to YouTube if you think you're going to be wanting to ask a question. I have that open right now, so I'll be able to see your questions come in with a little bit of a delay. And I may choose actually to just leave them to the Q&A section at the end of each of these lessons, because it may be that I already have the answer to that planned for just a little bit later into the lesson. The other thing that's important to know is if you want to be able to comment, I believe you have to, or ask a question in the comment section, I believe you have to have a either a Google or a YouTube account, and you need to be signed in. So if you need to, again, you can stop. If you need to create an account, you can pause and you can come back to this a little bit later. Now, I've already told you over and over again, this course is going to be applicable whether you're doing live or pre-recorded videos, and no matter what platform you're using. Let's go ahead and dive in right now. The first most important thing for live videos that you need to check is actually not on the platforms, it's your internet speed. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to open a web browser, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right now. Just any old web browser. Generally speaking, the higher quality content that you have, the faster the internet speed you're going to need in order to keep up with all of that extra data. So you should be able to see my screen right now. I'm going to go to speedtest.net. You can see that's already filled in. That's speedtest.net. Here, let me zoom in for you. Oh, can't zoom in there. And what's going to happen is you're going to see this page load with a big go in the middle. I want you to just go ahead and click on that go and let it run. Okay, it's coming up. We're almost there. It's connecting. What this is going to be doing is it's going to be testing your internet speed. As soon as it loads, having a little bit of a problem here. I wonder if I'm having some low internet speed. Now, the first thing it's going to test is your download speed. You have download speed and you have upload speed. I'm assuming this is taking a little bit of extra time because I'm doing a lot of things on my machine, and Hadar is also in the other room. This first number is your download speed. Normally this should be around 300, so I'm not quite sure what's happening right now. And the next thing that's going to start testing is it's going to start testing your upload speed. Okay, this second one, you can see it's a purple line up here now. That is your upload speed, and that's the important number for creating content. Let me zoom in here a little bit. There we go. You can see that a little bit better. So you can see right here, you get a download speed, and the test is in something called Mbps, megabits per second. Again, this should be closer to about 400, but I'm assuming either there's a lot going on in my neighborhood, or maybe we're just using a lot of it between Hadar and I at this moment. We don't care so much about the download speed. This is really what is coming from the internet really to your computer. That is important, but it's not really what I want to focus on right now. The part I want you to focus on is the second number, your upload speed. Okay, the upload speed is for when you are wanting to, I'm sorry, it seems like I'm running into a bit of an issue with my internet speed. There we go. Okay, in case we had a little blip, that's perfect that it happened right then, because I'm going to explain possibly what happened. At any rate, this upload speed is for any videos or any content that you may be creating on your machine that you're sending up to the internet. Generally speaking, you want to have somewhere around 10 megabits per second. Now both of these speeds can depend on a number of factors, and they, as you can see, they sort of, if I run the test again, they sort of go up and down. They don't all happen. It's not like it grabs one number. It's kind of like a stream. It's kind of like a river. You can see there are ripples, and the amount of water isn't always the same in a stream or a river. Same thing on internet speed. It sort of depends on different factors, like how many other people are accessing or taking up some of what's called that bandwidth, right? So how many devices in your home, it could be in your neighborhood. So you may find that at certain times of day, like during a busy weekday, when a lot of people are doing a lot of business calls or that sort of thing, you might find that your download and upload speeds are actually much slower. Whereas if you waited till nighttime, maybe it'd be a little bit different. And there may just be periodic dips for one reason or another. That's perfectly normal. So it could be that you got a reading and it wasn't actually what your average speed is. So I'd recommend that you run it again. And the more you run it, you'll sort of get a sense of the type of speeds that you're getting. Okay. According to Zoom, let me get back to my face here. Hey. According to Zoom, you need to have a minimum upload speed. That means the second number of 1.8 megabits per second. You may remember that mine was somewhere around 13 or 14. So technically, according to Zoom, I should be fine. I have personally found, as I mentioned before, that having an upload speed, upstream is another way that they say it, of at least 10 megabits per second. Now, why do I say that? Because of those dips and the natural sort of ebb and flow of your upstream and downstream speed for that matter, you want to have enough bandwidth so that in case you do experience one of those dips, you actually are still staying well above the minimum requirement for you to have a nice stream. All right. Now, if you're not getting, let's say, you might be able to get by with 5 megabits, honestly, with some dips here and there in terms of quality and skips and pixelations. I'm sure you've seen videos like that. Maybe mine did that just a few moments ago. If you are consistently getting speeds of less than 5 megabits per second, you may have to call your internet provider and ask them for an upgrade, which usually is an additional cost. Before we do that, there are several other things we can go through to troubleshoot your internet speed. First of all, as I mentioned, you can run another speed test. Okay, see if maybe you just happened to run one test and it was a little bit low. Run them over a few different days and a few different times of day, and you may find that your speeds are actually adequate, or you may find you can do them during certain times of day or on the weekends, but you can't do them, or at night, but you can't do them during the work week. Another question to ask yourself is your computer connected via Ethernet cable or Wi-Fi? Generally speaking, Ethernet cable is going to be both more stable, and it's also going to be much faster. So if you have that option where you can plug in directly from your router, do so at all times. On my MacBook Pro, I actually don't have an Ethernet connector, so I don't have that option. So my next best move is to make sure that I'm in close proximity, my computer right here, to my router, which is about 10 to 15 feet and in direct line of sight of this computer. Wi-Fi actually runs over radio bands. So if you think about, if you're used to listening to the radio while you drive, for example, the further you get away from a station, which in this case would be your router, and if you dip under any bridges and you have not a pure line of sight, the more obstruction you have and the slower your speeds are going to be. So if you've got walls in between, anything, a direct line of sight, and the closer you get to your router, the much, much better. Another thing you can check is many routers, like mine, can actually run two different frequency bands, the 2.4 gigahertz and the 5 gigahertz bands. And you may have even seen this, that when you go to sign in to your network, that you have two options that have the same name. Mine is, could be Sheldon Low, and then the other one might be Sheldon Low 5GHZ. Generally speaking, again, the 5 gigahertz band is faster. However, it doesn't do as well in longer distances or through walls. So you're going to have to test those. If you can get closer and you have the option, go 5 gigahertz. If you have to go further or around walls, then I would use the 2.4. Okay, it's possible that your internet provider, here's another thing that may be slowing you down. It's possible your internet provider is actually giving you enough bandwidth to your home, but maybe you haven't upgraded your router or your modem in a long time. Now, in some cases, you can have a router and modem, and in many cases, your internet provider might give one to you completely for free. In some cases, they charge a monthly rental, so you can check out, you can do a cost comparison. You can get one, at your local store for $50 to $100 and up, of course. But upgrading those two pieces of hardware might be another simple fix if you don't want to have to pay, say, an extra maybe $20 a month to upgrade. Well, even if you do pay the extra upgrade speed from your internet provider, if your router or modem are too old and too slow, they may be what's capping your speed. If all else fails, you're going to need to call your internet service providers, anything that's offered in your area, and see what sort of speeds they can offer you. Just so you know, to give you a sense, when I'm telling you that you should have probably a minimum maximum speed of at least 10 megabits per second, that is actually the lowest tier offering that Spectrum here offers in New York. That's our internet service provider. So you shouldn't need to upgrade in order to be able to get those speeds, at least in terms of the monthly service. And I think that's all I wanted to say about that. All right, now let's get rid of Zoom, and let's get rid of the internet test, and let's go through some of the settings in Zoom in particular. I'm assuming through this that you already actually know how to set up and participate in a Zoom meeting and get some video and some sound, but I'm going to show you what you can do to improve that. So I'm going to share my screen again, and what I want you to do is open a web browser, and I want you to go to the Zoom portal. All right, this is not the application. I want to be very clear about that. This is your online Zoom account. So what I want you to do is I want you to sign in. And by the way, before we go any further, I want to mention it's a nice little addition to go ahead and put up a profile photo if you haven't done so. It will show up in the chat. It will show up when you have your video muted. It just looks a little bit more professional, and it's very nice, and it's very, very easy. Okay. Now, there are multiple kinds of accounts. There are the free personal accounts, there's the paid accounts, or it's possible you're on a user account on someone else's, you're a user on someone else's paid account. So these options will look slightly different depending on what you are on right now, but I'm going to go through and explain each of these so that you're covered no matter what kind of account you're on. Okay, once you are signed in, doesn't matter what kind of account you're on, if you go to the left part of the screen right here, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can really see it. Whoops, that's a little too far. You can see underneath this personal tab, there are these options. I want you to click right here on meetings. And then within meetings, I want you to move your cursor over to the right. I'm going to have to zoom out in order to show you how this looks. One moment. I'm sorry, not in meetings. I want you to scroll down here even further to settings. And now I'm going to zoom out. So now you're in settings under the personal tab. Move your cursor over to the right, and this third option below meeting says in meeting advanced. Okay, I want you, if you're on a non-paid account, just pause for a moment. I'm going to come back to you in just a second, okay? If you're on a paid account of any kind, go ahead and click in meeting, and it's going to basically just scroll down on all of these options on the right here. And what I want you to do is scroll down until you see this option right here that says Group HD Video. You want it to be blue right here, which enables you to have HD quality video in your Zoom meetings. Okay, so that would be off. Blue, click it, would make it on. Great. Now, just so you know, Zoom only supports up to 720 on the first paid tier account. That's the lowest resolution, and we're going to talk about that later. That's still considered HD. You can, if you have a business or enterprise, which are the next two pricing tiers up, actually request from them, and you have to specifically reach out to them and request 1080, but it's only up to 720. Still, that's going to look great for a lot of you, and if you haven't yet done this, then you may be coming in standard definition. I did read at one point that Zoom had sort of lowered everyone's ability to use HD, or that they hadn't permitted HD even if you have this selected for a certain amount of time. Hopefully that has changed back, and you will see already, if you open a Zoom meeting, you should see just much better quality and much better clarity. Of course, remember, you need to have fast enough internet, otherwise your video is going to look pixelated and choppy. That's why we spoke about internet already. Okay. On the far left now, if we leave this setting for a second, I'll zoom back out. Come back to the top. On the far left, I want you to go over, this is again for paid accounts, I want you to see under the admin section here, I want you to click on account management. Once you're in there, I want you to scroll down and go to account settings below that. And this is basically going to change a lot of the settings for all of the users if you have multiple users on your account. So what I want you to do, again, come over to the right. Let me zoom in for you. You're going to come over to the right and you should see in meeting advanced. I want you to click on that. And just like before, I want you to scroll down. I want you, oh, see, I didn't even have this turned on yet. Turn on Group HD Video. If you get this, go ahead and say turn on, that's fine. And I'll in fact say don't remind me again. Okay. Then I want you to keep scrolling down until you see these two settings right here. Allow users to select stereo audio in their client settings. turn that on. That's going to make stereo sound available, which is going to sound much better. And then allow users to select original sound in their client settings. Turn that on as well. We're going to talk more about that in a second. If you're on a paid account, I want you to just pause on that for a second. Now, I'm on a paid account, but I'm going to show you once again, if you're on a non-paid account, you're going to come up here under the Personal tab. You're going to click Settings. You're going to move to the right, see In Meeting Advanced, click that. And I want you to scroll down. And I want you to find Allow Users to Select Stereo, just like we did on the paid accounts, and allow users to select original sound in their client settings. This is something you should actually do if you're on a paid account as well. So if you're on a paid account, once more, you scroll back to the top under the Personal tab, Settings, In Meeting Advanced, scroll down until you see these and make sure they're both enabled. Okay. Now, you can go ahead and close your Zoom portal if you'd like, and I want you to go ahead and open the Zoom app. So I'm going to open it. You're going to sign in. Let me slide this over for you guys. Make this larger. Okay. If you're on a computer, we're going to get to the phone in just a second. If you're on a computer, I want you to click on your profile picture. Okay, let's see if I can get this a little bit bigger on your screen. I don't know that it's going to be much bigger, but you click on your picture in the upper right hand corner, and what you should see if you scroll down almost to the bottom, you should see a Check for Updates button. I recommend that you do this probably right now. Otherwise, some of the features I'm talking about, depending on how old of an app you have running on your system, may not appear. So go ahead and click Check for Updates. Now there is an available update here. So my version is 5.0.3, and this is asking for 5.0.4, which is the next one. So I would recommend that you actually do click Update right now. I'm going to not do that so I can move on with this lesson, and you can do this afterwards if you like. Okay. The reason you want to keep up to date is they're constantly rolling out new features, and as I mentioned, if you don't have them most up to date, some of the features I'm talking about may not be available. Okay. So it does not require, by the way, a restart. So of your computer, that is. It'll restart the Zoom app. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Okay. Next, go into the upper right-hand corner, and I want you to click on this little gear icon that says Settings if you hover over it. That's going to open your settings. It's opening on my other monitor window, which looks like this. Now, I apologize. It appears that I can't actually zoom in on this, but I'm going to be very clear about what I do. On the left-hand side, you see all these tabs. I want you to go to the second one, which says Video. All right. Within these settings, oh, there you go. You're seeing my other display. We'll keep that on, that's fine. Underneath your little preview here, well, first of all, you can select your whichever camera you want. This one's for my second monitor, this is for my other one. I like to keep it at 16:9, that's what most of our screens are at. You're going to look at the My Video app, setting, and you want to click Enable HD. So you want to put a check mark next to that Enable HD, and that should make, again, this is what we sort of made available to see when we selected it in our portal earlier, and now we have to select it to actually enable it. I also recommend that you do touch up my appearance. Let me show you real quick. It's a little bit bright, so I don't know if you're going to be able to see. You can just see a slight on my face. It just kind of smooths out my skin a little bit. You see that? Off, on. Pretty nice, kind of like some fake little makeup. So make sure that's selected. Then I want you to scroll down in this settings window, and in the lower right hand corner you'll see an advanced button. Click on that, and you should have two options right here: enable denoise and enable hardware acceleration for receiving video. I suggest you do both of those. Next, I want you to move your cursor over to the left to all of those tabs again and click on your audio tab. Now, these are settings. Actually, I'll tell you what, let's pause on that for 1 second, and we're going to go to the mobile users. Okay, here we go. You should be able to see my iPhone now. Yes, you can see all the apps that I use. So you're going to open your Zoom app, which you unfortunately won't be able to see my fingers here, but it's in the lower right-hand corner. Click on that, and it opens my Zoom app. In the lower right-hand corner, okay, you don't have to scroll. It's on the very bottom right. You should see a Settings tab. So go ahead and click on that. And there you should click on Meetings, which is the top option. And then I want you to scroll all the way down. Check it out. By the way, before I continue, if you think you're ever going to use your mobile device, just do this with me right now and you'll be ready to go. Scroll down. You see the third from the bottom says touch up my appearance. Make sure that that's on, right? Off, on. See how that just kind of smooths you out a little bit? It's nice. Okay. And then I want to talk about the next part. For those of you who do music or for which sound is really, really important, I'm going to go through these next settings for both the computer and the mobile to use something called original sound and to turn off some of the filters that Zoom puts on. Zoom is meant for people to be speaking, and they want to make it foolproof for most people. So for 90% of people, they've put all of these filters and all this compression on there, and it really does a great job actually if you're just speaking. But if you want to do music or any kind of sustained notes, or where you actually know better than the Zoom app on how to make a nice sound, you kind of want to tell Zoom to take their hands off the wheel so that you can do it. So on the mobile device, and again, you can always come back to this later. What I suggest you do is wouldn't just necessarily change these next settings and then just immediately go live. I recommend that you test, and trust your ears. And if you can find someone in the Facebook group who will be willing to sit with you for 15 or 30 minutes and just listen as you change some of the different settings and tell you what sounds best, that would be awesome. Okay, so on the mobile device, you can see right in the if we scroll toward the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 from the bottom, you can see this original sound. So go ahead and flick that on. If you're on a mobile, you're done. Let's go back to the computer. Here we are on the computer. Now, again, only if you think that you're better than Zoom at controlling your sound. I deselect automatically adjust microphone volume. Okay, we'll talk more about this when we talk about audio in lesson 3. Scroll down to the bottom. You should see an enable stereo option. I want you to select it. So there's a check mark next to enable stereo. Next, I want you to scroll down and there's an advanced button. Click advanced. And at the top, you should see show in meeting option to enable original sound from microphone. Go ahead and select that. So you should put a check mark next to it. Then you've got 3 options below that under audio processing. For suppress persistent background noise, I want you to click disable. For suppress intermittent background noise, I want you to click disable. Unfortunately, you can't turn off the echo cancellation, so you can just leave that on auto. Okay, you are done. You can close that window. Okay, just looking at my notes to make sure I didn't forget anything. All right, now what I want you to do is go ahead, if you're on a computer, and start a meeting. So I've got a meeting started here, and I want to show you what you're going to now see in the upper left-hand corner. You see this button that says turn on original sound? This gets a little bit confusing. okay? This is a button, and if you click the button, it will do what it says on that button. So if I want to turn on original sound, I will click it. And now the button says turn off original sound. When it says turn off original sound, that means if I click it, it will turn off the original sound, meaning it is currently on. And that's really what you want. So make sure that that says turn off original sound. And I will show you if you've got some different options. There's this drop-down menu to the right. You can select a microphone, and that way it will always select original sound when you use that particular microphone. In this case, this is what I'm using right now. Now, I have noticed at times that this has turned off even when I have that set to automatically use original sound with a particular mic. So every time I go into a meeting, I just look up in that corner and I make sure it says turn off, and if it's not, I make sure to turn it on. The last thing I want to say about this is I have created a checklist for you using everything that we just went through, and you can print it out and keep it by your side, and you can just go through all of the different settings right before you go ahead and start your Zoom meeting. So I hope you'll find that really, really helpful. And I'm offering you that whether you're just watching this for free or whether you're one of my registered students. I'm going to stop right here for the free lesson. Hopefully, if you were scared or you had any doubts about how easily you were going to be able to implement some of these settings, hopefully I have quelled those fears. I highly recommend you go ahead and try out your settings right now. Definitely don't do them without testing them first, so you get a handle on what you're going to need to do when you actually do go live to your audience. I've got many, many more tips. I'm hoping that you'll see dramatic improvement from that alone, and I've got so much more. As a reminder, anyone who signs up for my course, oh, you know what? You want to see me? That's probably better. Anyone who signs up for my course not only gets my live instruction and unlimited access to the video recordings and to be able to ask me questions live, you're getting a download of the course book, which has all of the material I'm covering. You get access to the private Facebook group with all your fellow learners so we can keep learning together. You also get my hardware and software recommendations, and you can get my discount, and you get access to my sales rep at Sweetwater, who can not only help you find the gear that you specifically need for your needs. You'll get a discount on it, you'll get him answering all of your questions, and you'll get his help setting it up and installing it in your home. A few other mentions before I go. I am thinking about some other lessons I'm going to be offering in the future, such as 101 home audio recording. I'm thinking about offering a course in post-production for some of your videos, which might just be like a quick hit. And I'm thinking about doing sort of like a 201 for live streaming using an open broadcaster software and some of the things that you can do. It's what I'm actually using right now. If you're interested in any of those, please just go ahead and I've got a mailing list sign up somewhere on this page. And if group lessons aren't your thing, but you're still interested in learning, go ahead and reach out to me. We can talk about possibly setting up some sort of one-on-one consultation. Just use the contact form on this page. That being said, I hope you found this extremely helpful, and I'm so excited to share so many more tips with you. Until I see you online very soon, please be safe and healthy, and I'll see you soon. Thanks so much. Bye.